Today we are ranking every Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC track based on how dangerous they are. There's a lot of dangerous stuff here. Let's find out which ones will leave you with injuries, which ones will leave you with death, and which are totally safe to drive on. So let's go. First track we have Paris Promenade. Now I think most people who have been here would say it's a pretty safe city, but the things that concern me are where you glide towards the Eiffel Tower and this huge killer plant in the middle. Although these are easily avoidable and not too much of a threat, so I think slightly painful is a good spot for this. Next up for Toad Circuit, I mean, what is there here at all? I mean, sure, there is a gliding ramp, but we can't just automatically say that makes the track dangerous because Mario Kart clearly knows how to handle those. There's no obstacles or anything here that worries me. This one is totally safe. Choco Mountain, there are a couple spots where you can fall off, but of course the main concern is these falling rocks. These will definitely do a lot of damage to you, and based on the size of them, I'm gonna have to put this one in major injury. You could survive, but I don't recommend going here. Coconut Mall on paper seems like it would be pretty safe, right? I mean, people go to malls every day. But the issue here actually comes from the parking lot. These cars that try to block your path to the finish line. Car accidents are always a concern, but because we're in a parking lot and going pretty slow, I'm not too worried about it, so I'm gonna put this one in slightly painful. Tokyo Blur, it's another city that has a couple of obstacles in it, like these thwomps. This one you definitely could say is totally safe, but I think just for me, I'm gonna move it up to slightly painful. Shroom Ridge is anything but safe, though. Like I said before, a lot of car accidents could happen, and we're moving a lot faster here. Of course, it is still a normal road, so you're not too likely to die, but you could sustain some major injuries if you're not careful. Now, Sky Garden is a little bit interesting. Sure, this place seems all peaceful and happy, but look around. We are way up in the sky, and not only that, the road is being supported with just a few clouds. Nothing in the track itself actually seems dangerous, but if you fall from this height, there is no recovering from that. And because of that, I think we have our first death tier track. Ninja Hideaway, at least we're back on the ground, but there's still a lot of things here that look like they could hurt. Not to mention just falling from the different levels, and even some of the roofs here would not be good. Not as bad as others, but it still has its dangerous moments, so I'm gonna put this one in Broken Bones. New York Minute, I'm sure a lot of people would say, oh, this is so dangerous. But look around, there are no other people here. Quite different from the very large crowds that are usually here. With that in mind, and the fact that there's really no obstacles here at all, I'm gonna put this one in totally safe. Same thing for Mario Circuit 3. I mean, it's a flat track with nothing in the way. Totally safe. Calamari Desert seems pretty safe, right? I mean, nothing around here to really cause you any harm. Oh, except for the giant train that could crush you at any moment, and that's not helped by the fact that you have to drive on the tracks and through the tunnel where the train comes from. There's definitely a chance of death here, but I still don't know if this is as extreme as some of the others we'll see, so I'm gonna put it in major injury. Waluigi Pinball, yeah, Waluigi's big balls could definitely crush you at any moment. Seriously though, these things follow you everywhere on the track. But honestly, I don't think this is as bad as some of the other crushing obstacles we've seen, so I think Broken Bones will suffice for this one. Sydney Sprint doesn't actually have anything that I'm too worried about. This just feels like we're taking an actual tour of the city, going through an amusement park, getting on and off boats. Sure, there are a couple steep ramps, but anyone driving here knows how to handle those. This one's totally safe. But Snowland is just dangerous because of how cold it is. Already, we're in this environment with no snow gear on, and it's not like the cars can provide a lot of heat because they're not closed off. Also, falling into the water makes things even worse because this will send you into shock and definitely freeze you right up. I just don't see any way you're gonna survive doing this. Mushroom Gorge is kind of a similar story. You could survive bouncing across these huge gaps, but falling off and getting hurt here seems a lot more likely. This one's going to major injury. Then there's Sky High Sunday, which is also a little dangerous because of falling, but I do feel a little bit safer knowing that everything isn't supported by just a bunch of clouds. And come on, there's an unlimited supply of ice cream everywhere. How could you feel any sort of danger when that's the case? For London Loop, I'm pretty concerned about the chain chomps here. These things can do a lot of damage, and considering they escape from their chains on the last lap makes me even more worried. That, combined with the sheer amount of them, makes me want to move this one up all the way to Broken broken bones. Boo Lake, I mean, we're kind of already in the zone of death considering there's ghosts everywhere, and trying to drive underwater has never led to good results. Yeah, you're definitely gonna become one of those boos. Rock Mountain has this huge jump at the start and more falling rocks at the end. Like before, not guaranteed that things will end badly, but there's definitely a chance of serious injury. Maple Treeway I don't think is as bad because there are wigglers here, but come on, they don't want to hurt you, they're nice. Though you're still up in a tree, and people have suffered from broken bones falling from trees before. Berlin Byways, this seems like a pretty safe city to me. There are definitely less obstacles around here, but they do still exist, so I'm gonna put this one in slightly painful. Same thing for Peach Gardens. Now there are some loose chain chomps and a giant plant like before, but these feel very contained and there's not too many of them. I'm okay with this one going in slightly painful also. Merry Mountain is kind of a tricky one. Now, it is a very happy place and you're just going up a mountain with nothing in the way, and it is a cold place, but you have a village here that you could warm up at. This long downhill portion is my biggest concern though. You definitely could lose control when driving down this. Slipping on the snow and the ice while going this fast makes me think a lot of major injuries could happen here. In 3DS Rainbow Road, how would this even work? We aren't wearing any space gear and have gone further out in space than anyone ever has. Breathing is essential for not dying, in case you didn't know, so I think it's pretty clear where this one has to be. Amsterdam Drift initially seems like it would be pretty safe, but then you gotta consider gliding over a train, going through an infested flower field, and driving underwater. Yeah, like I said, usually not a good idea for survival. Riverside Park, definitely a lot safer. There are a couple of walking piranha plants around here, but come on, they don't do anything to you. They're just minding their own business. I don't see any danger with these guys at all. I think this one's totally safe. DK Summit, another issue of driving down on the snow, but I don't think this is as bad as Merry Mountain. None of these hills seem too steep, and I do think if you lose control, at worst, you'll just suffer some broken bones. Yoshi's Island has a ton of enemies around. That's a little concerning, but even more concerning is gliding up to a road on clouds. I could give this one a little bit of a pass though, because it's not super high, and we're just on this section for a short time. I'll put this one in major injury. Bangkok Rush, I was thinking is pretty safe, but then I remembered the part where you glide over all these structures. Is it high enough that it would be a super huge injury? Probably not, and the rest of the track is pretty safe as it is, so I think Broken Bones should do. DS Mario Circuit, pretty basic, not too many obstacles here. Really, the only concern is this plant in front of the forest. Just the fact that you have to get pretty close to it bumps it up to slightly painful, but that's really it. Waluigi Stadium, though, definitely a lot more to it. There's a lot of high jumps here that people could get hurt on, but that's really the only obstacle. There's nothing here that wants to hurt you, so Broken Bones is probably all you'd suffer. Singapore Speedway has a lot of flying around. There's quite a bit of gliding over water and a glide up to this super tall building. That's a lot of concerns, and enough for me to put this in major injury. Athens Dash also has a height problem. You are required to make a lot of long falls here. Like, look at this. There's that, and then driving upstairs, which doesn't really seem safe in any way. So yeah, that's another major injury. But now let's go to a nice and peaceful one, Daisy Cruiser. Sure, there are a couple of parts here where you can drive in water, but it's always for a short time and never required. And the only enemies on the ship are just chillin'. They're not trying to attack you. Say what you want about cruise ships, but I love them, and I think this one is totally safe. But what about Moonview Highway? Absolutely not. All of these cars on a highway, meaning they're going super fast, and there are bomb cars to go along with them. I'm gonna put this one in major injury, but it's right on the border between that and death. Squeaky Clean Sprint has us driving in water. Again. And it's even worse when we drive into the drain where it's super disgusting. Yeah, no one's coming back from that. Then there's LA Laps, which is pretty safe for most of it, all the way up until this construction zone. Probably nothing to worry about, but these things could definitely hit you as they swing down. I'm gonna put this in slightly painful. Sunset Wilds, well, it's painful how they didn't include the sunsetting feature, but physically, there's nothing going on here. This one is totally safe. Koopa Cape, I really don't know know what to do with this one, because we do drive it into the water, but it's inside of a tube, so we're not actually submerging the cart, right? Well, it turns out when we drive completely into the tube, we still get completely covered in water. With that in mind, and the possibility of falling into water everywhere else on the track, I can't say this is anything less than death. Vancouver Velocity. This city worries me a little bit because there's a lot of spots where you can fall off the track, spots to fall into water, and the stadium where you drive on ice. Something that's usually not a good idea, but all of these aren't too worrisome and really just a lot of small concerns adding up, so I'm gonna put this one in Broken Bones. Romavanti, it's pretty safe considering you glide completely over the fountain, and these chain chomps look pretty secure, but the small threat is still there, so I'm gonna put this in Slightly Painful. DK Mountain has a lot going on. The huge cannon blast up to the top, the steep ride back down, the falling rocks once again. This one feels like a similar story. There's a lot of concerns here. Major injury. Daisy Circuit, though, definitely feels like the definition of harmless. All we do is just take a tour of these statues, go around the lighthouse, and that's it. Daisy clearly wants everyone to be totally safe, so thank you for that. Piranha Plant Cove, I mean, what can I say anymore? It's a car in water for a long time. No way you're surviving. Madrid Drive, you know, this one I'm okay with. This is just an awesome track of looking at a lot of places in the city, and there's nothing that opposes a threat outside of a couple of enemies, so I think Slightly Painful is a good spot for this. Rosalina's Ice World, I mean, it's cold. We still have no snow gear. There's this giant pit to fall down, and water to drive in. Not only that, but cold water. Basically, every big concern we've had comes into play right here. Either way, you're definitely gonna freeze. Then Bowser's Castle has the opposite problem. This place is way too hot. There's so many narrow paths here, and pretty much everywhere there's a chance for you to fall into lava. Even if that doesn't happen, the air is definitely too hot, and how are you even gonna get out of here afterwards? This is a definite death area. And finally, Wee Rainbow Road. Once again, we're in space with absolutely no oxygen, and even though we're slightly closer to the Earth, that's still not really a good thing, because we'll just be burnt to a crisp the second we fall. Death for this one as well. And that is our tier list of every new Mario Kart track based on how dangerous they are. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know how wrong I am and anything that you would change with a comment. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.